Our next story is all kinds of bizarre. It's funny, it's confusing, but it's also cheating. On Sunday, China hosted the Beijing Half Marathon. Some 20,000 runners took part. They had to cover 21 kilometers. Up ahead, 4 runners were stuck together, one from China, 2 from Kenya, and 1 from Ethiopia. The African runners were slightly ahead, but in the final stretch, something strange happened. The African runners asked the Chinese runner to overtake them. How embarrassing is that? The eventual winner was He Jie. He finished 1 second ahead of the African runners, but clearly it was all rigged. You see, He Jie is quite the star in China. He's 25 years old. He won the marathon gold at the Asian Games. He also holds the national record, so making him win was a priority for the organizers. One of the runners from Kenya has spoken out about this. He admits letting He Jie win. But guess why? Because he was his friend. As far as excuses go, not a good one. The cameras clearly picked up what happened here, and once it went on social media, there was outrage. People called it embarrassing and unfair, so the organizers had to do something. They've launched an investigation into what happened. But don't expect anything significant, because this is routine in China. It was sponsored by a Chinese sports company called X-Step. And guess which runner they also sponsor? He Jie, the same runner who got the free overtake. So try joining the dots now. Chances are the sponsors wanted their man to win, but why did the African runners play along? A Chinese sports expert has a possible explanation. Maybe the prize money was guaranteed, or maybe a bonus was promised if they let the Chinese runner win. Either way, it's not done. And this whole controversy exposes 2 problems. One, the state of China's marathons. It's pretty bad. In 2018, 258 runners cheated in the Shenzhen race. Many of them took shortcuts. Another incident was in 2019. Instead of running, a woman decided to ride her bike. She was caught on camera and asked to dismount. So clearly, China needs more oversight. And that's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is the frequency of such incidents. They signal an attitude problem, a desire to win by bending rules. We've seen that at the highest levels in China. At the 2012 Olympics, 8 badminton players were disqualified. 2 of them were Chinese. They threw a match in the group stages. The idea was to get an easier opponent in the knockouts. Another example is Sun Yang. He was a world and Olympic champion in swimming, but he was later banned by authorities. Do you know why? Because in 2018, he destroyed vials with his blood samples. It's not something that innocent people do. In 2019, there was another example. China was hosting the World Military Games. One of the events was orienteering. It's like a mix between sprinting and treasure hunting. You must follow clues and maps to reach checkpoints. Just one problem. The Chinese onlookers helped their runners. They planted clues across the route. So eventually other countries complained about it. Last year at the Asian Games, similar complaints were raised. Some Indian athletes were unhappy with the officiating. They lodged a complaint with the organizers. So clearly there's a trend. It's easy to blame it on the athletes, to call them dishonest, but it's also a symptom of the wider problem here. Athletes who win are celebrated in China, but athletes who lose are ridiculed, trolled, and worse. Now, we're not saying it's an excuse to cheat, but I'm sure it doesn't help. Chinese organizers and authorities need to realize the most important thing about sport. Winning is not important. Winning the right way is.